Brought to you by BedroomBattlefields.com, this is the Tabletop Miniature Hobby Podcast. I'm from that generation of hobbyists that read White Dwarf cover to cover in the mid-90s, and one of my favourite features was always the battle report. So I thought, seeing as my good pal Callum, aka Dr. Spork, was coming round for a game of Hobgoblin, we could set about making our own. We were playing Orcs versus Chaos in 15mm. Callum wanted to take charge of the latter, so I sent him both army lists in advance and asked him to come up with a plan and record it for the podcast. Obviously I wouldn't hear this until after the battle, and likewise he with mine. But before we got to the tactics, what about the story? Like all good White Dwarf battle reports, we needed some flavour text to set the scene, so I drafted up a wee premise and asked the perennially excellent Owen Staten to record it for us. The scenario was called Square Go, and it was a follow-up to our previous encounter, Dick's Last Stand. Here we go.
Orc Warboss, Grab'em Eyeball Sack, and Chaos Overlord Baron Gibb had a fragile and uneasy relationship. In truth, they could not stand one another. And once their mutual enemy, Lord Marshal Dick Longfellow, had been crushed beneath their combined weight, the cracks in their alliance became painfully obvious. The argument began in Wotherspoons, a tavern named after the Baron's beloved Manticore Mount. The matter under furious debate was quite simply, who had beaten Dick the hardest? Eyeball Sack insisted, at considerable volume, that his lads had done most of the scrapping. Baron Gibb replied coolly that he had merely used the orcs as a screen, in much the same way as his dwarven acquaintances out east were fond of expanding entire legions of hobgoblin slaves. Voices were raised, tables were overturned. Only an inevitable riot was prevented by an authoritative roar from behind the bar. All eyes turned to a huge man with the hair and the face of a lion, surveying the room with the weary authority of a schoolmaster confronted by particularly stupid children. It was the legendary Timothy Hornbrew, the discounted, the Thane of Sticky Carpets, the Lord of Cheap Ale. "Friends!" boomed the landlord. "There is only one way to settle this, by means of a square go outside." Eyeball Sack grinned, revealing several teeth that might once have belonged to other people. "Right then, me and you outside." "It would be my pleasure," replied Baron Gibb, rising smoothly from his chair. The two armies drained their drinks and followed them out. All except Lord Bloatfilth, the great unclean one, who shuffled towards the gents with a rolled-up newspaper under his arm. "I'll be out in a minute," he said.
When Matthew asked me if I could pretend to be Jervis Johnson and come up with a battle plan, two things immediately came to mind. Number one, I won't be pretending I'm Jervis Johnson. I'll be pretending I'm Andy Chambers. That way I might actually win. Sorry, Jervis. Number two, come up with a plan? My strategies always come from the quote, "A battle plan never survives contact with the enemy." So, with that in mind, I never come up with one. The closest I get to a plan is just to quickly and savagely attack my opponent's army, which coincidentally comes from Mike Tyson's riff on the earlier quote, "Everybody has plans until they get hit for the first time." The giant in my own orc and goblin army is particularly effective at this, as anyone who regularly plays 5th edition fantasy with me can testify. But here I am, trying to figure out what I'm going to do and pondering how badly it will fall apart. The board is fairly bare, so there isn't going to be much scenery for me to strategically hide behind, and neither army has an overabundance of ranged weapons, being two slavering hordes of mutants and orcs. So ultimately this is going to come down to a big rammy in the middle of the board. Time to think about the game of Hobgoblin itself, and what parts of my army might be most useful. The first thing that springs to mind is that our previous games of Hobgoblin have been pretty tight at the end, and that a small advantage can swing it either way. I've also noticed that getting more units around a single unit in combat can start the cascade of doom that can destroy an army. With that in mind, I think I need to pick a weak spot, preferably on a flank, but straight up the middle could work too, and force my fastest and most powerful units into it early doors. Hopefully this will allow some of them to be in a position to get round the side or even round the back of some of the enemy units by the time the rest of the army arrives. So, I'll send my 2 units of heavy cavalry at that weak spot, followed by Baron Gib and Bloatfilth, whose size and manoeuvrability could probably be exploited to wrap around any enemy units the cavalry engage with, and hopefully deal with them quickly enough to not get bogged down, or even just protect the flanks of the cavalry from a counterattack if needs be. With a bit of luck, by the time the rest of the army arrives, the orcs' weak spot will have collapsed, and the faster cavalry units can help to flank some other enemy units, and so on, until the battle is won, and Grabham will be grabbing his skirts and hightailing it out of there as fast as his pudgy little green legs can carry him. So that's about it. Not the most interesting or original of battle plans, but a battle plan that will undoubtedly go wrong nonetheless. The only thing remaining is to decide if it will be a cavalry charge down the flank or a mad dash up the centre of the board, and I won't know that until we start deploying our armies.
I was hired to advise Orc War Boss Grabham Eyeballsack, not because of my tactical skills or knowledge, but because it was me who built and painted Baron Gibb's Chaos Horde. He reckons I know everything there is to know about that lot. With that said, I've never actually piloted them. Up until now, I've only really played with Dick. But if this sounds like me getting my excuses in early, then there's really no need. I'm not a military tactician. I just need to sound like one in front of the big man and then quietly slink away when it all goes wrong. In this square go scenario, points win prizes. It's all about who could crack the strongest skulls and who can eliminate a more expensive set of units than their opponent. Looking over at the Baron's war host, we've got unit points ranging from 325, a lowly herd of beastmen, to 700 in the form of Lord Bloatfilth, the Great Unclean One. Chaos Warrior infantry and cavalry make up his second and third most expensive units. This is all nice to know, but to be honest, I'm not going to go hunting anyone down. There will be no mass sweep across the battlefield early on from the Greenskins. Instead, I plan to taunt, jeer, and let them come to us. For Baron Gib, a swift advance is non-negotiable. I don't know how he'll deploy, but I do know that his Beastmen infantry, Beastmen cavalry and Minotaurs have the Berserk keyword, meaning they pretty much must advance each turn until they get into combat. Those 3 units are worth a combined 1,075 points. I also need to keep an eye on his Chaos Warriors on foot. As heavy infantry, they're his slowest unit, so will arrive late to the party, but no less up for it. Their elite keyword makes them more likely to inflict damage at close quarters, while their tough keyword makes them hard to hit. Even if things are going well for me, I'll not be cracking open any pot noodles whilst these lads are plodding towards me. Still, I'd be wise to focus more attention on my own forces rather than trying to second guess what will happen with his. My 2 most expensive units are a couple of bands of Goblin Wolf Riders at 600 points each. My undeniable chaff unit is a horde of Goblin Spearmen coming in at less than 300 points. Naturally, I plan to use them as sacrificial bait. Will that be too obvious? Probably. In Hobgoblin, the shooting phase comes first and is less lethal than other rank and flank games. You typically can't kill units with your archers or war machines, only soften them up a bit. I have the advantage of 2 lines of orc archers compared to the Baron's single-ranged unit. I'll use these to either target his fast-moving cavalry units or Baron Gib himself. I'll see how things look at deployment, and I'll need to roll a lot of 6s. Both the Baron and his mounted knights have morale-boosting command effects which could tip the balance once the inevitable close combat, dying and panic starts. To take out either one of these would give me a genuine chance of triumph. On the flip side, I need to position Grabham and his retinue centrally, but protected from a head-on cavalry charge to reap the rewards of his motivational skills. The Orc Warboss is immense in combat, rolling 13 attack dice and always decreasing his target number by 1. He's a huge waste if he's not fighting, but if he's killed, it'll be a disaster. Combat very much needs to be on my own terms. My long lines of archers will bookend the goblin horde and hopefully become the focus of the Baron's inevitable charge. They'll shoot arrows for as long as they can, and then I'm happy for them to become speed bumps. The archers will sit at slightly oblique angles, as it's my likely naive hope that this will help expose some chaos flanks once they get into combat. The goblins will gradually retreat at an angle, opening an inviting door for another of his units to charge and expose a flank. The hope is that once the Chaos host commits in various untidy and awkward positions, my battering rams could sweep in and hit them hard where it hurts. The Wolf Riders have the devastating charge keyword, and if they have 6 inches or more to plough into the enemy, then that could do a lot of damage. Much of that's going to come down to initiative though, which could chop and change each turn. I really like that about the game because you can't plan out your strategy beforehand with a tape measure. Back to my goblin chaff though, and I have a formidable unit of orcs laying in wait behind them. The Bone Grinder mob have the brutal keyword, which means they reroll any misses once. They could also replenish their own health by eliminating units, so they, along with Grabham's lads, are going to represent the hinge of my army. Then I've got some big muscle to steady things up and block out any devious manoeuvres that dirty flanker might try to pull off. A giant orc, Rotbelch the Colossal, and a unit of trolls are going to act as my anvils. This all sounds really clever on paper, doesn't it? But as they say, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, especially not the plan of someone who's as woefully out of their depth as I am. And with the devious Dr. Spork whispering sweet nothings in the Baron's ear, I've no doubt they'll have a few tricks of their own to throw at me. Well, I suppose there's nothing left to do but get on with it. Let's see what happens.
Orc Warboss, Grabham Eyeballsack, lay face down in the mud, doing his best to hold his stomach together as his guts struggled to worm free. He managed to turn his head and peer through one puffy eye as his wolf boys ploughed into Baron Gibb, finally dragging the Chaos Overlord from his manticore steed. A few of the Baron's remaining shield maidens made the greenskins pay the ultimate price for their charge before collapsing themselves into the blood-soaked ground. With grim amusement, Grabham realized that the only true victors of the square go would be the crows, circling impatiently overhead. Ah well. It had been a good scrap. He could still make out the tavern in the distance. In its doorway stood the lion-headed landlord, calmly surveying the carnage like a man checking the weather. Grabham thought he could see someone else beside him too, a tall, cadaverous figure in a wide-brimmed hat. One of them necromancers, by the look of it. The two figures leaned close, apparently deep in conversation. The necromancer nodded, and the landlord gestured towards the battlefield, and both seemed quietly pleased. Grabham grinned weakly as the mud claimed his face at last. Figures, he thought. Even the draw's been rigged. Ah.
So, Callum, I've just heard your battle plan. I've heard the plan that existed before a dice was rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to lead with the plans, or do you want to lead with the the fact that, how the table is looking after the end of this.
We could chat about the plan to get to the table as an interesting conclusion. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess that the listener will by now have heard both our plans as they were. So, how did you feel that yours went?
As predicted, mine went wrong a little earlier than I expected. It went wrong in the deployment phase.
How so?
Well, I saw your 2 archer units going in at the side, and I thought, there we go. There's my weak spot down the flank. Get into the archer units. And then you proceeded to deploy pretty much the rest of your army on that side of the board as well anyway. So I was hoping for a bit more of a spread across the table from you. I was hoping to get those archer units out the way and then come down the rest of the army, but didn't work out that way.
Yeah, it's honestly the first time I think in my life I've tried to have a plan for a game. So, as I said in my plan itself, like, I didn't have high expectations, and yeah, I mean, you've now heard what my plan was versus how things panned out. So, yeah, I guess, like, well, I mean, how did the game unfold? Like, we deployed, and then you were quite surprised when I didn't move.
Yeah, you waited for me to come to you. Yeah, yeah, very unorky.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd kind of having read your battle plan now, I'd kind of see why you'd set up the way you did. You were waiting for me to move in, and then kind of try and flank as I kind of had to charge, but I was just going for it anyway. That was my battle plan.
Yeah.
So I had a plan, I might as well stick to it. So it was always going to be send those 2 units of heavy cavalry down the side and have a couple of the big single miniatures in support. Yeah, it all started to go wrong with your giant orc. Turns out I'd completely missed the fact that he crushes heavy cavalry underneath him.
Yeah, he hits on it too, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he wrecked one of my best units in about 1 turn. Pretty much, and that started to cause issues for me. I mean, I managed to claw it back, but yeah, your archers also stood up to the onslaught of bloat filth, a great unclean one. Much better than would have been hoped. I think
they put about 8 out of 10 doom on him, didn't they?
9, I think, was where he got left.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get you there. The first turn of combat, particularly, I think they put like 6 or 7 doom. When they were on, was it 5s to do any damage to him?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, he did beat them in the end, but it slowed him down. It caused a lot of damage to him, and he's pretty good unit to have in the game. What about you? How do you think your plan went?
There was certain things I was happy with. I was quite happy with I was happy to see at one point that the goblin bait were totally surrounded, and it was almost like, well, if I could have any one unit being swarmed here, it would be them. So I was quite happy with that. But on the other hand, I felt a couple of combats didn't go well. Now, I wasn't maybe in the best positions I could have been at certain points, and then I kind of misused my Wolf Riders too. Like, I hesitated getting them out, and then I don't know if I particularly went for the best moves, and then I accidentally played them as light cavalry for a turn. I don't know that would have had an impact in the end, but
it might have done just enough to swing the final result. But yeah, I think it was an interesting game. It was very different to our previous games.
Yeah.
Our previous games have been much more straightforward. I think your deployment, your battle plan, did end up with having to think more about flanking and maneuvering and things like that than our previous games, which had just basically been 2 lines of army slam into each other.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the listener at this stage will be screaming like, well, who actually won? So
yeah, we discussed this actually already. Heinrich Kemmler won.
So, like, just for clarity, like, literally everyone died, didn't they?
Yeah,
there wasn't a single unit left alive, which was a great ending. Like, and yeah, got to the stage where, like, at the end I wanted that to happen rather than somehow win by one. Just I think it was it your Shield Maidens were the last remaining potential surviving unit.
You killed them, and their death killed other units.
Stuff. So you had to kill my Wolf Riders at the very end. Yeah.
I was thinking about it after the game, and I realised the way I could have won this was just by randomly wandering my Shield Maidens away from the battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah.
And both of your units still would have died, probably. Yeah, they would have, because Bloatfilth dealt with them in his death throes as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that. I mean, it mathematically wouldn't have worked for me, I don't think, but I had the same fleeting thought about the Wolf Riders, who were worth like 600 points each, and one of my units, they got basically held up by your Plague Bearers, but the ones that killed your archers, you had that half thought of they could just run off into the sunset now, but it's like, well, why do that? So instead they turned around and charged into the back of the Baron. You seemed happy with that at the time because you got round them on all sides.
Yeah, it meant I could get Bloatfilth in as well, which, do you know what? If I hadn't been able to get Bloatfilth in, I'm not so sure the other two units could have killed off those orcs and goblins. It would have been much tighter.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have dealt with the heavy cavalry, but as I learnt today, monsters are very effective against heavy cavalry.
So. Yeah, that's a thing, I guess. Like, I mean, we've approached this with more of a plan than we've ever had, but if you wanted to take that one step further now, it would be looking at that attack table and really figuring out the paper, rock, scissors stuff, wouldn't it?
How you want to match up against the opposition, and how the opposition potentially wants to match up against you. Because you're right, rock, paper, scissors is a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Because there are things that are good against, like, say, the monsters hit the heavy cavalry on twos, but the heavy cavalry can... Well, everything else has a hard time with heavy cavalry or heavy infantry. So
I liked the swings in this game because there was a point maybe about midway where I started to think, like, it looks like I've got this, and then a turn or two later I thought, I'm almost certainly going to lose this. Like, it just seemed like you were completely on top, and then at the end I was thinking I'd take a draw somehow and managed to get
you get the ultimate draw.
Yeah, the ultimate draw. Just not a single, I mean, what's his name? Tim, lion-headed Tim. He's still behind the bar in there in the pub.
He's just annoyed he's lost all his custom.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, the town that the forces of evil took in the previous game is now safe again.
Yeah,
thanks to the forces of evil.
We'll need to bring it back. So no, it was really good. I liked that swing, and yeah, I think that's the happiest ending. Morbidly, was just everyone dying in the end.
So, no, it was a good game. Like I say, it was interesting. I learned a bit more about the game, and yeah, I'm not disappointed to have drawn, because as you said, there was one point where I was like, I'm not gonna. This isn't coming back to me. But yeah, it does swing backwards and forwards, and once again, we've had a very tight game.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a game we've played yet where it's been like game over after 3 turns, has there?
No. Both of them have come down at the end, and have come down to very little. So, whatever else you say about Hobgoblin, which actually is not a lot in terms of complaints, is a very well balanced game.
Yeah,
so far at least. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I managed to stack those armies up. I think it was 4,000, 1,100 points each.
Okay, so we're both exactly the same amount of points. Because I was going to say, if one side had got slightly more points, presumably they would have lost by default.
Yeah. What did you think of my really fancy flags, the Doom counters?
Yeah, it worked better than the dice, actually, because you can't knock them so easily. And they're much easier to see. Little bit of a juggling exercise at points, but I don't think it was any worse than trying to find the next side on the dice.
Do you think the Doom phase should be renamed the Maths phase?
It's just like trying to figure out who's getting what and when, and then you're like, actually, that was it. It was like not the last turn, the second last turn was when most of both armies disappeared. And it was actually much easier because we just went, well, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead. So those guys take a couple of Doom because they're close enough, and that's it. Whereas I think the second and third turns, it was a lot more like, right, those guys are on 8 inches, so they take them, and then those guys, and then so they're on 7, and then they're on 8, and then you're like trying to juggle flags at the side of the table.
Just waving. It's like somebody's birthday party. You know what the Doom phase sometimes reminds me of when it's a big scrum? It's like, what was that film, Good Will Hunting? Good Will Hunting.
Oh, I think I've seen it, but not for a long time.
One of, like, he's on, like, you know those whiteboards that are so big, or blackboards, it's like ladders, and he's got this mass equation the size of a room, like that kind of reminds me of the Doom phase sometimes.
Yeah, I get that. But,
or Oprah, you get a point, you get a point, you get a point. So
all get points. That was the end of the game, actually, wasn't it?
For the next game, because this was very much like a set piece with no terrain or that, it'd be good to get some terrain more into the mix again and bring in the fortune deck and just make it a bit more, not that this was by any means predictable, but just bring in more elements, I guess, to it.
Yeah, well, we'll have a chat about that. I mean, yeah, definitely would be, yeah, it was, I think this is the first time we've played a game with no real terrain in the way. There was terrain around the edge, but in the middle, it was just an open field of combat, which, like as I think both of us said in our in our battle plan, that made us have to think, which I'm getting a bit old for thinking. But yeah, no, it'd be good, and yeah, I'm interested about the what was it again, the
fortune
deck,
and there's spell cards and stuff too. Although I would need to paint up or make some of them wizards. Like, I guess you could make Bloat Filth a wizard or the Baron. I'm not sure who.
Well, no, in fantasy, the Plague Bearers can sometimes, like in Warhammer Fantasy lore-wise, I think Plague Bearers sometimes get a level of magic themselves.
Right, because they're demons.
Yeah, you could just like give some magic to grab him. Yeah, and say he's got a wizard with him.
He's got a wee guy blowing a horn.
Or just put a wizard in a unit, basically.
Yeah.
Because quite often, if you're playing other games, you'd put the wizard in a unit to protect it anyway, rather than have him by himself. I mean, if you want more miniatures, do you want more miniatures, Matthew? Is it normal for people just to want more miniatures?
Did you not see what I'd said the other day on Discord? Like, I'd finished a can of black spray, like I was out priming, and I just got the last remnants out of this can. And I say this every time I finish one of these tins of Chaos Black. I'm like, well, that's fine because I'm not buying anymore. And I'm like reassured. I'm like, well, you're not buying anymore. You've got all the miniatures you need. Like, there's no need to get another spray can.
As it turns out, you need some wizards.
Yeah, I'll be on Ralpartha tonight, looking at wizards.
Good place. Good place to get.
I think that's where I got a lot of these guys. From memory, Pendraken and Ralpartha did a lot of them.
Ralpartha are nice miniatures for a good price as well, actually. That's another thing, is that their prices are pretty good.
There's something satisfying about building a unit in 15 mil where you're like 75 pence to £1 per troop.
Yeah.
Like if it's like £1, you're like, well, I need 20 guys, that's 20 quid sort of thing. So it's a great value scale, 15 mil.
Yeah, well, I just bought 10 guys. They weren't that expensive. For my Gene Stealer cult, they were 30 quid, which is a big difference.
Yeah,
so, and they were at the lower end of the market at the moment as well.
And I am buying, I've got stuff earmarked for the end of the month because obviously I am buying new stuff.
What? Outrageous.
So you know how I've got the Thundercats from Crooked Dice.
So yeah, you got those for Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, painting them up. But I didn't realise they had Mumra. They had Mummy Mumra and Mumra the Ever Living. So I went back and bought them to add to, because I've got the mutants as well. And when I was on there, I saw the turtles and I was like, have to get the turtles. So like I've got them earmarked, and not only that, I found the thunder tank, because I was almost going to say to you, like, go and like make me a thunder tank, but then I found this thing on Crooked Dice. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like 40 quid.
Is that the one that's like got the two like arms and
they raise up?
There's a 40k or maybe 30k tank. There is a tank that Games Workshop have made recently.
Yeah,
that is uncannily similar.
I'm going to send them a cease and desist.
Of all the people to be like, oh yeah, just totally rip it off that design.
And this is the new Space Marine chaplain, Panther Rai, who's they've got one on Crooked Dice. I'm definitely getting it at the end of the month after payday. So we Thundercats warband on the go. We'll have to get that on the table at some point.
Yeah, you were talking about open combat.
Yeah, I think I quite fancy playing that again, because there's a lot of like similarities to Blood Bowl, which I've been playing a lot with my wife and really enjoying it. So it's the 3 dice mechanic. So like, I think in Blood Bowl and open combat, if I try to fight you and I'm weaker than you, I roll 1 die and there's outcomes. If I'm a bit more powerful, I roll 2 and pick the best one. And if I'm much more powerful, I roll 3 and pick the best one. I think if I'm less powerful than you, it's 1 as well. It's something like that for both Blood Bowl and open combat. So I quite like that. You know, in a lot of games, skirmish games, if you surround somebody, you're adding +1, +1, +1, and it just escalates. But this is just capping at 3 dice. So it doesn't, games in the past, like the game I was kind of putting together, mind it was getting a bit silly at times, because you're like, oh, I've got these 8 people, and like you're just...
I don't mind a bit silly and kind of nonsense stuff, but yeah.
Good when you can cap it, so like you get a really good advantage, but it makes it a bit easier on the brain when you're just like, well, that's three dice. So open combat, that was like the first book I got coming back into the hobby. So I'd originally thought about Frostgrave for the Thundercats, but then I was like, who's your wizard? Like, I know Lionel's sword's a bit magic, Chitara's a bit psychic, but you couldn't really say either of them are like wizards. So Frostgrave wasn't the right game for the Thundercats. Glad we got on the topic of the Thundercats.
You just sidled that
in. How was the pot noodle?
As you'd expect.
Yeah, unforgettable.
They describe it, say unforgettable. Be unforgettable in 4 minutes.
I found that's. I'm obviously.
Sorry.
I'm obviously to blame here, because I literally put the water in it, but I found it a bit more watery than usual. But I can't really blame the pot noodle itself for that. I was the one that put the water in it, so. Yeah,
sorry, I'm just still reading Be Unforgettable in 4 minutes, and that's like how to impress the ladies.
Yeah, so that is really it, isn't it? Everyone's dead.
Yep. To paraphrase Doctor Who, just this once, everybody died. A good game. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to maybe we'll come up with a bit more of a scenario.
Yeah.
And
there are actually that you said you're getting the book, didn't you? Because there's scenarios in the book.
It should be at my house by the time I get home.
Excellent.
Coming up with my battle plan, I realised that I couldn't remember enough of the rules to come up with much of a battle plan. So I went and managed to get a copy of the book and the fortune deck.
And the thing is, feel free to restart the army.
Well, that might be a good idea. Yeah, if you send me a picture of the units that I'll be playing with in the next game, and I can and a target for the points, I can do it myself. I'm like, that would be fun.
Yeah, because then it's like, I mean, not that I'm clever enough to make it predictable. I couldn't even keep up with my own keywords half the time, but then you're bringing something that's a bit more yours. So
yeah, I'd have it more in my head. Because that was another thing. The first thing I did when I got here was like, I need to look up the keywords and this stuff, because I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I even had to like just give myself a couple of reminders throughout the game. Like, there's the tough one you've got to remember. The goblins had that self-destructive one. It's little ones like that don't crop up as often, that you just have to keep on top of. But Aye, the more you play it, the more it kind of embeds itself in your head, so... A big thanks to Callum for making the trek through to Mordor once again, and to Owen for lending his ever-excellent voice. And thanks to you too for listening. I know there are infinite people, channels and apps screaming for your attention on a daily basis, and I never take it for granted that you still choose to slow down and spend some time with this one. And with that, that is the end of this episode of the Tabletop Miniature Hobby Podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe or follow on your podcast app of choice, and we'll speak again on the next one.